This episode, we're talking about a handful of games, including 3DO's quote-unquote worst game in a series, another old game you might have had a belly full of, a hide-and-seek between a tall lady and a man thing, and of course, the game with the only protagonist to rival Nathan Drake in his genocidal tendencies. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Out of Mana. We are finally back from a almost 2-month hiatus, and I don't know about you, Ben.
Already?
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Jeez, 2 months already. Yeah. It's time has flown by, and boy, a lot has changed. Why don't you go into it, Garrett? Why don't you give us the kind of skinny on what's been going on there?
Yeah, so basically, long story short, I moved. I moved in with my girlfriend, still in California. I used to live in the same town as Ben, but
He lived with my parents.
yeah, I actually was renting a room from his family I was doing that for quite a while, and then
I like 3 years.
yeah, 3 years, and you moved out, and like you got your own place, and yeah, it finally just got to the point where my girlfriend and I could finally progress and move on, basically, and so we got an apartment about 30 miles away. So not too far, but enough to make things a little more difficult to record, obviously.
It's enough for sure. And I what your new work schedule has just been like hell.
That's been the thing, is I'm still working the same job. It's just with my schedule, it's been a lot less consistent. So it's been a lot harder for us to find days to record, which has made it really difficult to get back into the swing of things. But Ben and I have been working with it, and I think we can make it happen again. So I'm excited to be back. I don't know about you.
I am pretty damn excited to be back. Trust me, there have been many light and long nights where I've just been going, the podcast, the podcast,
I know.
the podcast, the next episode. So yeah, we're very happy to be back.
And the good news is, I mean, at least for me, I think I've been able to spend a lot of time playing a lot of the games that I talked about wanting to play in the past, and so I got a lot to say, I think. You been up to anything fun?
I have too. I've actually I've mostly been playing older games, nothing really too new lately. Though I did try to play some of the newest, hottest game.
Oh, okay.
But if you've listened to our last episode, the last thing we released was our history of 3DO deep dive into the mana pool.
Mm-hmm.
And I was playing one of the games that I said we would research, which is Portal Runner. And yeah, I've been working on that game. That was an old classic for me, and like we've said, it's quote unquote 3DO's worst game, and some say the final nail in their coffin before their coffin was finally buried. But I think that's left up to users' opinion, because my opinion's a little different.
Well, I guess we can just go ahead and jump right into it. I think you wanted to talk a little bit about Portal Runner this episode, right?
I would. We'll I'm just gonna go a little bit into it because we will do the full thing, because there is still a follow-up episode to that 3DO episode. This episode will specifically be about 3DO and kind of the software development side just before their very slow, gasping demise. Basically, though, 3DO game company, they made hardware to begin with, software, and then their hardware failed. Their own console failed in the early 90s. Then they went to the software side and they made video games. And one of their more popular series was the Army Men series.
Mm-hmm.
And from that series, you were introduced a character called Vicky Grimm. She was the hero of the Army Men series, Sarge. She was his girlfriend, basically. The quintessential female character with a kind of kick-ass attitude of the late 90s, early 2000s that kind of had to be there just to fill their role. But in the year 2001, they decided to give her her own break-off game, kind of like Final Fantasy X.5 sort of thing. You had to get the game with the female characters because the game company wanted to appeal to a wider audience. A little bit of a cash grab, I think, and a lot of people said so because the game was not favorably reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
But it has its merits, and I think it deserves a second look, which is what I gave it. Basically, Portal Runner, it was released in 2001. not a space odyssey, but you might remember 2001 for something else, a very, very national tragedy if you were in the United States. And this game was released on the day of that tragedy.
Oh my God, you're
9/11.
right.
This game was released on 9/11.
Wow. That didn't help sales, I bet.
That did not help sales whatsoever. Then, the game was followed up with a fairly soon after extremely bad review from GamePro magazine, which was, one of the more respectable magazines to get your reviews from of the time. They gave the game a 2.3 rating out of 5. It was a harsh review, and my opinion on this review, because I was a child who enjoyed this game a lot.
Mm-hmm. I remember you showed this game to me, and you were so excited to show it to me because you would play it over and over.
You and I played it a lot. You and I played it a lot. Like,
yeah.
We played the, versus mode a lot. Child's mind aside, as an adult, revisiting this game, and especially revisiting it from a later time period, I'm looking at it now from a time when there's not a lot of games like this around anymore. I think this game just came out in a time when action platformers had saturated the market and there were a lot to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
So GamePro was giving it a very harsh perspective, saying like this game's nothing special. There's a lot of these games. So what's the point of this game? This game shouldn't exist. And after they released that, Trip Hawkins. So if you listen to our 3DO episode, you know Trip Hawkins. He was the prodigy wonder child of the 1970s and 80s who anything he touched turned to gold. He had great ideas. He was a great marketing man. He was a great everything. He was the Guy Friday of the tech world. He could do anything and make anything work. 3DO did not work, and 3DO was his last child. When he saw the review for Portal Runner, he basically had kittens, and I don't mean that and I do not mean that favorably.
I remember hearing about this at some point.
He had kittens in text form. He basically exploded them onto an email, typing very harshly to the then president of GamePro, John Rousseau, and it was a very threatening email. Basically, he said, "How dare you? How dare you?" And this entire email was just full of "how dare you review my game so harshly and so rudely." He said the customers of your magazine do not matter. The customers are your advertisers and not the readers.
Wow.
You should appeal to us, not the populace, basically. And he implied that anything you review should be written with the bias of giving us what we want and not actually giving objective reviews.
Jeez.
Then a lot of people are aware of this. This is very old-fashioned news in the gaming world, but this was a very infamous of the time. And then he followed it up with, and this is a pretty direct quote, saying, "There is something wrong with the reviewer, not with Portal Runner. If you disagree with me, you do so at your own peril." That this would be the music cue with all like the doo-doo, zoom in on the thing with the piano and everything. And then he follows up saying, "I should mention in passing that 3DO has been one of your largest advertisers. Effective immediately, we are going to have to cut that back." End quote.
Savage.
That was...
Oh my God.
It was savage, but it was also very stupid.
Could you imagine like an adult being that petty?
And the thing is a lot of adults in the high-tech, corporate, any world are usually this petty. Adults have tantrums quite often, and unfortunately Trip Hawkins had a tantrum like this. He sent it to someone, and it became fairly public, which is why we were able to have this quote. The public knew about this, and they did not like the reaction to basically the media not being allowed to objectively give reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Portal Runner was then kind of cast down with the sodomites, basically. It was not given a fair chance. Again, it may not have been a perfect game by the standards of that time, but it really wasn't given any chance at all because it was considered by a lot of fans of the Army Men series, it was considered a quote-unquote girls game, so a lot of the fans of the series, it was an Army Men game. It was the green Army Men figures. It was it appealed to boys. And this is speaking in early 2000s stuff. Like, there was a very kind of divide there.
Well, video games were so different back then. You know, now everyone plays video games, but back then, I mean, it was just kind of like boys played the video games, girls played these, and that was just a stereotype back then. Like, girls don't play games.
And a lot of the market buying games at the time saw the game as such. It was a girls' game. It was not very good. It was also a change in kind of genre to the Army Men game. The Army Men games were more straight action shooters. This was more of an action platformer. And, you know, it's not perfect, but yeah, it did not get great reviews from public or critics. My enjoyment of the game so far has been pretty thorough. I've been thoroughly enjoying the game. I replayed it. As soon as you start the game, it opens up onto the title screen, and you get blasted with early 2000s alternative rock. Like, just it's actually absurd. Like, the theme song is played by the band Half Cocked, which you might not remember this band.
No.
But you will remember their music, because I'm sure everyone and their mother has seen the original Shrek movie. And if you watch the original Shrek movie, you remember the scene in Lord Farquaad's stadium where Shrek beats up all the knights.
Yeah, that's one of the best scenes, actually.
And to that scene is the song Bad Reputation.
Isn't that the one that goes like...
Yeah, I don't give a damn about my bad reputation. Yeah. So that's not the original 80s Bad Reputation you're hearing. That is a cover of the song done by the band Half Cocked. The exact same band who does the theme to Portal Runner.
Shrek facts over here.
Exactly.
Perfectly timed, because it was Shrek's 20th anniversary just a couple of days ago.
Hey, man. You know, things just fall into place sometimes. So that's an interesting point there. It's a great song. If you like alternative rock from that time period. I happen to, because I was a child back then, so it tickles those little nostalgic vibes. And yeah, they're a good band. They're just forgotten with time. They didn't really get anywhere past that stuff, because most people heard Bad Reputation. It sounded so much like the original version that it's kind of mixed together. So whatever. You get past the title screen, you go into the game. It's this game kind of epitomizes that time period, like the time period of Buffy, the time period of Xena, Warrior Princess, the time period of even Duke Nukem kind of things. You had action characters that were just, they killed as many bad guys as with weapons as they did with their, like, just needling quips. They would just hit the bad guy with a quip, like saying something that would just be so like perfect and on point that it just kills them dead. And Vicky Grimm, the main character of Portal Runner, does just that.
I remember.
She's a badass chick. She's basically the Barbie version of, like, the little green army men. She has human skin color, unlike the green of the other characters, but she has green hair, and her outfit is more or less green in tone. So she gets her own game in this game, and basically what happens is this game's very interesting. I know I'm going really, I kind of wanted to go this deep into it in the 3D episode, but I'm doing it anyway because
I was gonna say, I'm like, you really are passionate about this game, so I'm just letting you go with it because it's
I like this game. I like this game, and I think it deserves some nice words about it after all this time. And this game takes the video game kind of trope of damsel in distress, and it just flips it over. A lot of games didn't do this back then. A lot of games followed the trope kind of to a T. And what it does is it takes Sarge, who is the main character of the Army Men games, and it makes him the damsel in distress. He is the one who is kidnapped and literally made a damsel in distress by being forced into marriage. He is, by all intents and purposes, what people only associated happening to women in video games back then. So it was very unusual for a man to be put in that situation and for the woman to save him. This game was, I hate to say it, this game was extremely feminist for the time. It was very cool because you actually got to enjoy playing a female character doing the things the male characters usually did, which is to save the damsel.
I was going to say, the only other game I can think of that time that had a female character that was strong is probably like Tomb Raider, like Lara Croft.
I mean, you had Lara Croft, yeah, but she did her own thing. She didn't need no man.
That's
Like
true.
she did her own thing, and it's not like you didn't have games. Like you had Joanna Dark and Perfect Dark. I mean, you had other games with female leads, but this was just interesting because it took the classic trope and flipped it. It took the trope of rescuing the princess and just flipped it and made it you're rescuing the prince, and it was funny. It was just very funny. Even as a kid, I was kind of like, huh, this is interesting. But it's a 3DO game from the early 2000s. The plot really didn't matter when it comes down to it. The plot was just there to give you a reason to go to all these wacky places you go to.
That's kind of true. I never really thought about that, but games back in the day, like, man, the stories really weren't good unless you were playing like a good, maybe like a good JRPG or something like that had good writing.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was just like, here's a goofy character with a goofy world, and go do some platforming.
It's really just an
like
excuse to have platforming, cool level design, and quips.
Yeah.
And it's like the movies of the musicals of the 1930s. They're basically just stage productions with these loose love stories tied together so you could have a reason to put it on film. Like, it's literally, the plot doesn't mean anything. And so in this game, what you get just that. Like, you basically get this Barbarella style story where you're just hopping from world to world, and each world has a different outfit that goes with it. It's a themed outfit. And it's just fun. It's really just fun. Like, you go to prehistoric world, you go to medieval world, you go to space world. I mean, and you get like these like kind of kick-ass 90s style outfits with a very kind of retro vibe to them to just top it off. And with you throughout this game is your best friend, your rideable mount, and sometimes helper in battle, Leo the lion. He's basically like one of those little rubber plastic lion things you'd get in the 90s as a kid. And he's pretty cool.
It sounds like such a fun game, like just how you describe it with all the different worlds. Like we were just talking about how you can just have all these wacky different worlds and do whatever you want with it because it just doesn't matter. It's just a game. It's fun. Like you get to have a space level. You get to have whatever. You have the lion because why not? Like why not have a pet lion?
Is like you're not just playing the game and going like, oh yeah, why not just have this random thing happen? But like it makes sense in the game. Like the plot may not be extremely important, but the plot does actually tie in to the Army Men games. The plot continues from those games.
Oh, okay.
It's a kind of a different viewpoint on the plot. Mm-hmm. And so it all makes sense. And your meeting of Leo the lion, not Ruben or Max, is important because he helps you in the game and his presence makes sense, even if he's kind of out of place in some of the other worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun. Like the level design is fairly clever. The platforming is fun and it's coherent. Like the jumping is pretty fun. It's pretty like easy to do and it's reactive. The combat is a little hollow, a little shallow. It's a little repetitive even, but it has some fun trick shots. Meaning like in a lot of levels there are some things you can shoot in the environment that will open up a secret. Like there's the like on the prehistoric and one of the prehistoric levels there's a lava, has a big lake of lava, and there's like this, I think it's like a flower, some kind of plant, and you shoot the plant and it activates this temple that rises up out of the lava. And this is a pure Easter egg. Like this is not something you do. You're not supposed to do it. You can do it. And then you go into the temple and it's like a little platforming thing to get to some extra gems you can collect.
Oh, I love that kind of stuff. It's
just fun. And again, in the prehistoric world, there's another spot where you can barely see it, but you look across this ravine and there's like I forget the dinosaur exactly, but there's a dinosaur skull. You shoot the dinosaur skull and then it rises up, like it floats into the air and it roars at you, and then it starts firing stuff at you, and you have to kill it. You have to kill the dinosaur skull before you get killed yourself. And once you do, it activates a platform that you can ride on and it takes you to like a special gem. It's a little hidden secret, and you can completely miss it and never know it's there. This game is full of this stuff. It is full of these little secrets that are fun. They're fun to discover, and that's why I think this game kind of deserves the second look that I happily gave it. And again, I will probably repeat the stuff I'm saying now in the 3DO episode, but I like this game, and honestly, I feel like it got kind of a bad chance when it first released. Released on 9/11, which was an awful day for everyone, and then Trip Hawkins did not really do it any favors when he responded to the reviewers, and I think, in Devil's Advocate, I think the reviewers, they were oversaturated with these types of games back then. Like, if you look at this game from a modern perspective and with the ability to realize that it's of its time, you can see that it's a fun platformer. It's not perfect, it's not great, it's not going to change anything, but it's fun. It's a fun game. And it has a lot of good stuff to it. It really does. And I enjoy it. And I'll close up my tirade here by just talking about the villain of the game. Because not only is the hero of the game female, Vicky Grimm, but the villain is one of my favorite villains, actually. Like, she's a villain that has stuck with me throughout the years because she is absurd in the best way. And Garrett has heard me quote her throughout his entire life. And
I was just about to say that, like, of all the characters from video games, this one is probably like the most quoted by Ben for as long as I've known him, since 2005.
Her name is Bridget Blue, and she is adequately named because she is blue, and she is just delightful in the goofiest ways possible. She wears a bright electric blue leotard that like covers her from head to toe, and then she has like blue retro 60s hair which just looks goofy, and she has blue lipstick, blue everything except her skin. She's just blue, and she's like weirdly sexy in that like strange way that like late 90s things were. And she has this voice. She is voiced by a very, very talented voice actress who does this Rocky and Bullwinkle style Russian villain voice. I make big trouble for Moose and Squall. Like, she has that voice. She just sounds like a 60s era villain sidekick from a James Bond film. And it's just, she's funny. She's great. Her voice actress, she's voice acted by Nika Fuderman, who has done a lot of work. She's not really that well known, but she's probably voiced something in every game and every show you've seen. One of her more famous roles is playing Luna Loud in Loud House, which is a show that has quite a little bit of a fan base to it. She did some voice acting in Ratchet and Clank, Star Wars, the little series they made, the Clone Wars, Kim Possible, Doom Eternal too, and honestly, the list goes on. She's been in everything.
I feel like that's how a lot of at least in video game voice actors, like if they get a good role, they can just they just appear in everything. Like
they really do.
I've noticed that with a lot of voice actors when I go to look them up. I'll be like, oh my god, they were in this, and this, and this. And usually it's just some kind of like side character, like a side quest person that you maybe see once or twice. But it's just very interesting to see how much these people hustle to get work. Like, they're in everything. Like TV shows, movies, animated stuff. It's pretty impressive. Like when
it really is.
Like when you showed me this list earlier, I was just like, oh my god, I've seen like tons of that stuff. Like, I don't even know who this person is, but
you have heard her voice.
I have heard her voice a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I kind of featured her as like the voice actor I want to talk about was because her voice of Bridget Blue is it's stuck with me. It's ever since I was a kid, I remember hearing that voice and going like, this is like so goofy, and yet she sounds so much like a villain that it's perfect. And really, Portal Runner is a fun game. It's literally known for being a bad game and for being like the final nail in 3DO's coffin. But honestly, it's of its time. It's a beautiful moment in history of just like that time period. And it's fun. It's a fun action platformer, and it's worth trying.
And what platform was it on?
It was on the PlayStation 2.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
It was an early release for the PlayStation 2.
I can still see the the cover of the game case. I just
Yep,
see,
where she's like leaping through the portal.
yep, and then Leo is like right beside her.
Dude, I thought Leo was awesome as a kid. I was like, oh my god, you get a lion as a companion? What?
Well, that was one of the coolest things in games back then, is having a companion. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something you really didn't have, and so games that had companions or even full-on teams that you got to control was just very cool.
And the one thing I was upset, you couldn't play Leo in the versus mode, but the versus mode was still fun. You could play as Bridget or you can play as Vicky, and I remember playing that a lot with you, Garrett. And I remember one of the levels. No, not. I think all the levels even had secrets in them. Like the multiplayer maps had secrets in them. There was the medieval one. You could light a torch, and it would open a secret wall in the map that had like extra. That had like the extra like electric bow or something behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
I hate to say, but my memory must have been erased for all of this because, I do not remember any of the gameplay. But that does sound familiar.
Man.
The electric bow does sound familiar.
I remember killing you a lot with it.
I'm sure you did because you were much better at this game than me. So that's probably why I erased it from my memory.
I was a 3DO fanboy. There's a reason I wanted to do the 3DO little deep dive we did, and there's a reason I enjoy talking about this game. I was also a big fan of the Army Men games too.
Mm-hmm.
I love 3DO, so
it was some of the first. It was some of the first game content that you basically was introduced to as a kid.
It wasn't the first, but it was stuff that
Early.
I like got heavily. I really enjoyed. It was some of the first game content that I really enjoyed, and I even met a 3DO developer at a party once when I was a child. My parents, lived in the Bay Area, and 3DO was based in Redwood City, which is right beneath San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents, my mom was in high tech, so we went to parties sometimes, and she took me as a kid. And I remember one of the guys at the parties, he was a developer, and I don't know how it came up in the conversation, but he told me, oh, I work for 3DO. And I was like, you work for 3DO? And I just started asking him all these stupid child questions, and he actually helped me with a level that I was stuck on in Sarge's Heroes 2.
Seriously?
Yes, you did.
Oh my god!
I got past the level with the advice he gave me. I don't even remember his name. I remember what he looked like. I don't not remember his name, but yeah,
wow.
That was I like 3DO, and again, Portal Runner. If you like old games, you like action platformers, give it a try someday. It's worth playing.
Yeah, you kind of convinced me to kind of go back and play it. I might have to get an emulator. I'm assuming you were playing this.
Except the Dragon Box. Fuck the Dragon Boss. Fuck that boss. but yes, I'm playing it on the PS2 emulator. I do not remember what it's called, but it's the first one you find when you look up PS2 emulators.
Cool. Well, I'm not playing old PS2 games, but I am playing some PS4 games on my PS5.
You've been kind of rocking one of those good titles, huh?
Yeah, I have. I've been playing a lot. I've been able to get through my backlog, which has been really nice. Can't say I've been through a lot, not as much as I wanted to, because you know how life gets. Sometimes you gotta watch a TV show, some movies. Sometimes you just want to do nothing. But one of the games that I'm playing through right now, which I'm currently playing, is Ghost of Tsushima, or Tsushima. The way they pronounce these things in this game, I feel like I'm saying it right, and then one of the other characters says it a different way, and I'm just like, maybe it's like America, where you can say, what's a good example? Like Nevada or Nevada.
Nevada.
Depending on what accent you have, they just say it differently. So
it's like Minnesota.
Like I say Tsushima, but a lot of the people in the game say Tsushima. So it just depends on how you say it. Anyways, It's a very cool game. I remember it was up for a lot of awards in 2020. Unfortunately, it was up against The Last of Us Part 2, which basically swept the show. And that is also a game I'm meaning to play, so I'm sure it deserves everything. But
The Last of Us isn't even fair, dude. I mean, The Last of Us is literally a... What did I call that episode? I said it was a...
It was made for Emmy Awards or something like that.
Yeah, it was Emmy bait basically, where it's like those movies where the character has, oh, I've got cancer, and then they die very dramatically, and you're like, oh my god, this is so moving, and it of course wins all the awards.
I'm sure it deserves everything it got, but as I've been playing through Ghost of Tsushima, I'm like, I feel so bad that it had to go up against Last of Us, because this game is so beautiful and it plays so well. And again, I'm playing on the PS5, But as far as my knowledge goes, there hasn't been a like updated PS5 update to make it run better. So I'm assuming that this game plays just as well on a PS4. Maybe I just have better load times. But from what I heard, it was like a technical miracle that this thing was running on the PS4 as well as it looks.
It's a beautiful game. Like it is. It looks straight out of cinema. It's a beautiful game.
And it's definitely inspired by that because a lot of the cinematography in this is totally based on that kind of stuff. Because every time you start like a new mission or something like that, it does like a dun, and it shows like the title of the quest you're doing, and it strategically places the camera in somewhere like really dramatic that you're next to. And so it has like the Japanese symbols, and then underneath it has the English, and then it kind of like sizzles and fades away. And
sounds very like Japanese cinema of like the 60s and 70s.
That is exactly what this thing is doing, because there's even a mode you can play in that is all black and white, and so you can play the entire game like that. Oh God, I forgot what it starts. It starts with a K, but it's basically those type of movies, the old samurai movies. One great thing that happened for this game is it did win Best Art Direction in 2020 during the Game Awards. So that is one that it snagged, and thank God, because like I can't think of a game I played with this good of art direction. It's just
I'm sure The Last of Us 2 was like grabbing that award, going, no, we win it, we deserve it. Ellie,
I was gonna be so mad.
Did you see what happened in the first 30 minutes of our game? We deserve this award.
So enough of the praise. I'll talk a little bit about what the game's actually about. So you play as Jin Sakai, which is a samurai from Tsushima, and it starts off. Beginning of the game is basically a giant battle. The Mongols are raiding the island of Tsushima, and their main goal is to go invade the mainland of Japan. And so Tsushima is kind of like the stepping stone between like China and Japan. So they're basically crashing the island, and so all the samurai of the island are gathering down on the I think it's Komada Beach, and they're looking at all these Mongols just coming in, like tons of ships, and they know it's a suicide mission basically. And so you basically play through the suicide mission, and you just get destroyed. Like you just watch everyone get destroyed. You basically die, and but you don't, obviously. That's hence the name.
Obviously, you're the main character.
Obviously, you're the main character, and so basically the story is like you barely survive, and this one girl comes and saves you.
But you're a ghost.
So that's the thing.
So you come back as a ghost. Is there like a scene with you and the girl, and she's like making like a pottery thing on the wheel, and then like you come behind her and like help her make it?
It's like Casper.
No, that's from the movie Ghost.
Oh, it is?
That's the literal movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze.
Oh. I've never seen that.
Go on. You've seen the scene, though. It's very sexual. Go on.
You're right. Never mind.
It's very sexual.
Okay. So basically, you technically die on the beach, and all the samurai are wiped out. So you're one of the last samurai on the entire island. And so basically, you're everyone's last hope. Your uncle is one of the other main characters, Lord Shimura, and he, from what I understand, he is basically the top dog of the island. I think he is the lord of the island, because you're also Lord Sakai. Basically, everyone that's a samurai is also a lord, from what I'm understanding and what I've researched.
That tends to be the case, yeah.
And so I guess he's just like the big dog on the island, and so he gets he doesn't die. He gets captured by the main bad guy, which is Khotun Khan, descendant of Genghis Khan. Or I remember looking into what step he was. He's pretty far down, so he's one of almost the last Khans, I think, that whole escapade was going on. Anyways,
are you sure it's not Shao Kahn?
No.
Your soul is mine.
What is that from again?
The quote is misattributed, but that's Mortal Kombat. Sorry.
Oh my God, you're right. Okay.
So that's the wrong quote, but I just whenever I think of Shao Kahn, I think of that quote.
So to wrap this story up, I'm dragging on about this. Basically, Lord Shimura gets captured, and your goal is to free him. And so to do that, you basically have to get some help from the people who are still on the island, still surviving. And I mean, you were just like this one-man wrecking crew. Like, the amount of Mongols that I've slain as this one individual is putting Nathan Drake from Uncharted to shame. Like, I have slain so many Mongols. And it's just funny because you're on that beach in the beginning, and it's like, I've killed as many as I saw on that beach. Like, I guess the thing is the way you go about doing it is you have a little bit more tact.
I mean, Nathan Drake is a literal genocidal maniac when you consider how many people he has killed in various ways. So, are you saying this game, like, your quip in the intro actually, that's true? Like, he's actually rivaling Nathan Drake.
I mean, like,
Drake
he's actually got a decent cause here because these are invaders on his island, so he has a good reason to.
Instead of Nathan Drake just going around wantonly killing whatever comes across, and
these are
destroying any ancient artifacts or cities that he comes across as well.
Yeah, no, he's actually got a reason this time.
Okay.
So it's a very interesting story because Jin is having to. He's very attached to like the samurai way of life, which is very full of honor. Everything you do is honorful and honorable. Sorry, not honorful. And he's realizing that he can't win unless he changes. And so the girl that saves him, she's a thief basically, and she basically convinces him like, hey, if you want to save your uncle and save the people of this island, you're gonna have to get a little bit dirty, because if you just go one-on-one with these Mongols, they're just gonna overwhelm you.
Oh, he has to drop the honor. He has to drop the honor.
He's got to drop the honor, and so she kind of
Oh no, go on. I want to keep listening. Sorry.
Yeah, so basically he has to drop the honor and start playing dirty and stabbing people in the back, sneaking around, doing shady thief stuff that he's told himself that he would never do. But he's realizing this is the only way that he can save people. And he's like, you know what? Like, the Mongols aren't playing fair. This is the only thing I can do. So you basically, I mean, you do all kind of stuff in this game. I would say it's a good mix of, like, the newer Assassin's Creed, like the open world Assassin's Creeds, Horizon Zero Dawn, surprisingly, a little bit of Souls-like, I would say more like Sekiro, where it's not heavy Dark Souls, but it's like the way the combat works is very you know, Assassin's Creed, you're surrounded by like 20 guys, but you're not afraid of dying because you just like,
because you can't die in that game basically. You're God. You're like a literal god.
I've never been afraid in Assassin's Creed from dying from a mob of enemies because I know I can just like hold block down and just attack. But in this game, it's a lot trickier. Like, if I have 4 guys surrounding me, they're not exactly playing fair and taking turns attacking me. I can be in the middle of attacking someone. This guy's just gonna come swing his axe and sweep me off the floor. So
they basically just like try to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah. So you really have to you're encouraged to be sneaky whenever you're entering these Mongol territories, and because it just makes it a lot easier. Because if you go in and run in, you're just gonna get surrounded. There's people shooting arrows at you. You know, there's different guys, different enemies, that all fight in different ways, which is a very cool thing about this game, which I like, is the, one of the things I was worried about with this game is I was watching videos, I'm like, the combat doesn't look that deep. Like, it looks like you're just basic attacking these things and blocking. Like, how can this be satisfying?
Like Kingdom Come Deliverance kind of thing?
I guess, yeah, I haven't played that, but it just felt like I was just swinging my sword. But no, there's actually a lot into it. So as you progress through the game, you learn different stances, which is, at the end of the day, it's just how he's holding his sword to better accommodate for what kind of enemy he's against. So there's stone, water, wind, and moon. And so stone is to help you fight against.
What about fire?
I know. I was wondering that too. I'm like,
did we? So moon gets a spot, but fire doesn't. What the hell?
I know. I didn't understand that either. I guess it just didn't really make sense. My guess is that this is probably based on real, like, samurai.
Yeah. I'm just a dumb Westerner, so yeah, you're right.
They typically, it seems like they've been going pretty historically accurate with a lot of the stuff in this. So stone stance, you're better against like sword wielders, like just straight up sword wielders. Water is to help you with shield enemies. Wind is for spear enemies, and then moon is the last one that you get, and it's for dealing with like the big brutes. So the brutes,
the big brutes.
so they're just like the largest.
Are they like the Nathan Drake brutes where you have to like do fisticuffs only? You can't just like blow their brains out.
The nice thing is with the brutes you can headshot them and they die.
Thank God,
with
dude. That was
bow
so
and arrow.
stupid.
Yeah, no. So you can deal with them, but they also have like either just a big axe or a big shield, so you can deal with them with the other stances. But the moon one is specifically meant to just overpower them with strength, which is really cool.
And do you have to specialize these stances, or do you get to like fairly upgrade them as you go?
No, so they're I'm glad you asked. So you can swap between these at all times. So you'll be in the middle of battle and you'll just be swapping between these stances.
Like, is it fairly fluid, or you have to like
Yeah.
stop and be like stone? Or you have to be like water, or like Sailor Moon style, where you have to like transform.
No, so all you do is you'll be attacking. You pull down the right trigger R2, and it brings up a little menu, and it's just like you just hit one of the buttons,
Oh,
and you
like,
just
like Witcher style.
yeah, you just switch to a stance, and so it's very
cool.
very fluid. So I could be attacking a sword person, and the instant I kill him, I can just switch my stance to water, and then I can attack the shield guy, and I can change in the middle. I was really impressed, and like the sword fighting is just so snappy and so crisp. Like it is very very satisfying to kill these enemies. I've been enjoying it so far. Like, you know, a lot of these games like Assassin's Creed, you run in, you're just like, ugh, like I just gotta hit the enemies. Like they're gonna die. It's not fun. But in this one, I enjoy getting in these complicated situations because it's like, okay, can I maneuver quickly? Like, can I change stances quickly enough to like get these guys before they get me down? And they kind of have like an endurance meter to stagger them. And so to break that, you have to be in the right stance to like fill the bar up quick enough. And so when they stagger, then you can just wail on them, and then they die.
Okay.
Another thing that's fun is that sometimes they don't always die, and so you'll see them like trying to crawl away, and you can like finish them off, and it's like the classic hover over them and just whooshing, and just stab them in the back, just super satisfying.
That is not honorable, so you definitely dropped your honor there.
No, it's honorable. I mean,
To stab someone in the back.
okay, well, no, to finish off what you started, it's very honorable.
okay,
We're giving them
I'm sure
death.
Okay, I'm sure.
But you
again,
do.
I'm just a filthy Westerner. I'm just the only thing I know is like Tom Cruise movies, and I have watched some old samurai movies, I guess, but like I don't know that much. So go on.
No, so that's the samurai fighting style. Now, these are you mentioned, can you upgrade these? For those, you basically the way you get experience is just by completing side quests and killing enemies, basically. And it increases your quote unquote legend, which is basically your level. So you don't level up, you just increase in legend, which is basically like how renowned you are. And you get these things called technique points along the wheel, and you use those technique points to just like put it into an ability or an upgrade. And so with the stances, it basically just like you hit harder now, or you unlock a combo where it's like hold triangle and then triangle triangle, and you do like a double stab thing. So you basically just improve them and make them more useful. And then the other side of it is the quote unquote ghost part, is when you're being the sneaky thief and stabbing people in the back. And it's basically what it sounds like. You're basically sneaking around, you do assassinations. You use kind of ninja-like weapons, like, what do you call those, like kunai? Those little blades that you throw? It's like the classic ninja thing. It's like the little dagger thing that you throw.
Oh, like the little like ninja guidance like things like
Exactly, and they just like fly out and like and basically those just like get rid of their endurance meter, so you can just go attack them. You do things like smoke bombs, so it gets smoky and you can assassinate, and they lose you. Sticky bombs, which are kind of surprising.
Well, yeah, I was literally just about to go like, wait, don't they have Halo style sticky bombs?
It's pretty cool the way they engineer these things. It's basically like adhesive and gunpowder. And it screams, runs to the. I was like the best part of Halo was throwing sticky grenades at grunts.
How do they? So I'm sorry. Go on about how the grenade is made, but I really want to know how they react when they're stuck.
The reaction isn't. I mean, it's so quick. They barely react. So it basically, some kind of gunpowder sticky adhesive situation. No, you throw it on them and it just kind of explodes and they kind of catch on fire and people around them catch on fire.
Do they like run around on fire and hug each other to light each other on fire?
No, but if they're in the vicinity, they're definitely catching on fire. And like if they're in grass, that catches on fire, which is nice.
Ooh.
So it's pretty fun. And there's all the little.
Sweet.
There's like other things you can do, like environmental things, like hornet nests. If they're next to a hornet nest, you can hit it. And
okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna bring back the cartoonish. Okay, there's the cartoonish thing right there. Hornet nest that falls on their head and they run around and scream.
No, they're actually like all these hornet nests are on the ground. I don't really know how hornet nests work, but they're all on the ground.
Hornets are fuckers, dude.
And they just kind of hang out around these nests for some reason. I don't know what these Mongols are doing, but they're always hanging around these nests. They're like visibly flying. There's like hundreds of hornets visibly flying around it, so I don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah, when there's hornets around, you do not hang out there. I will tell you firsthand that hornets are not fun to get. I think they bite. I think I got bit in the face by a hornet. It's not fun.
Ugh, that's horrible.
They're huge.
So apart from like the samurai stuff and the ghost stuff, you also have a bow. You get a bow. You get a half bow and a long bow. So one of them's obviously just like faster shooting, and the other one is more long range. And then you get a few special arrows for each of those, like fire arrows, exploding arrows, that kind of stuff. Archery in this game is a lot of fun. I use it pretty often because, like I was saying, if you get a headshot, they're dead. Like, there's no...
Even the brutes.
Even the brutes. You get a clean headshot and they're done, which is just very, very nice because I hate...
It doesn't, like, stick out of their head and they're like, huh? Must have been a rat.
Exactly, no. Like, you got to be pretty accurate with it, but it's very satisfying when it happens.
Cool.
Yeah, that's about... I mean, I could keep going on about the combat, but it's just very satisfying.
And so you said there's no leveling up in this game?
Correct. There's no leveling up. The only thing you're doing is just making yourself more powerful.
So do you just have like moments where you're like you should rest and meditate on what you've learned, or like there's nothing like that?
No. So as I said, you increase your legend, and like when you reach the end of the circle thing, then like I don't know, it just you get a new title basically.
Like something pops up and it says everybody like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just like you're now the hero of Tsushima or whatever like that. And so along that circle, there's little nodes, and like when you reach it, you get a technique point. And so you're basically just collecting the technique points as you're growing your legend, and you just put those in the slots, which makes you stronger. You also have like different armor sets, which are better for certain things. There's no like stats. It's just like, I guess they're technically stats, but if you're wearing a certain thing, it might be better for archery. If you're wearing another thing, it's better for defense. If you're wearing one thing, it's better for attack. And so it's pretty standard, and you just upgrade those pieces of armor, and it just cosmetically makes them look cooler the higher level they get, and also increases how effective they are, which is nice. There's not a bunch of different gear. You basically just have these outfits that you improve, and so it's not super confusing. Like sometimes it's a little overwhelming to have too many items. So in this one, I've been like using the same kind of sets throughout the whole game, and I just switch between them depending on what I'm gonna do. Same thing with the weapon. You just have like your katana and your tanto. So you just keep those two. As far as I know, I'm like halfway through the game, and I don't see why they would change that. Like a sword's a sword. You don't need a new sword. Like it's just your family sword that you keep upgrading. A
sword is a sword. A rose is a rose.
So apart from the combat stuff, there's one thing I really like about this game is the diversions that they use. And by diversions, I mean it's like side questy stuff or collections. One of the things that you may have seen about this game is how there's the fox shrines. And so basically...
Yeah, it's the girl, like that girl that helps you. Doesn't she like turn into the fox and she leads you there?
No, not exactly.
or she dresses up as a fox?
No, they're real foxes. Apparently, you find these things called fox dens, and basically when you discover it, you see the fox, and you just basically follow it to an Inari shrine, which Inari is some kind of Japanese god I'm unfamiliar with, but...
Isn't Inari the fox god?
Yes, it is the fox god, basically. Yeah. I just don't know what that god entails, like what they're known for. But as you discover these shrines, you unlock charms, which you can you can upgrade. It's kind of complicated. So with the fox shrines in the beginning, you use them to unlock a certain thing, which helps you in combat. And then after you get all those, then it starts giving you charms, which upgrade as you keep finding them. So it's just this very interesting thing. It's basically the more of them you find, the more powerful these charms get that you can equip. I didn't explain that very well, but
don't.
I'm trying to remember what I got first.
I think I pick up what you're laying down. I think I get
Yeah, you collect enough of them and then you get something. Is basically the easiest way to say it.
Okay.
Another thing you do is hot springs. You find these little hot springs and you basically sit down in it and you reflect on something and you get two choices.
Hollow Knight, huh?
And so he kind of sits in there and he thinks to himself. And then every hot spring you find, it increases your health a little bit, which is cool.
So are they kind of non-linear things you find, or are they like you have to find them?
No, they're just hidden out in the wild. So everything that I'm talking about,
okay.
These are all like hidden secret places. And so you'll just come upon one. These are like the question marks on the map, basically. So
so it's a free roam map.
It is open world, yes.
Oh,
I should have mentioned that. Yeah, so this is a full open world game. And you're just riding around this beautiful landscape. And so there's all these side quests you can do. There's the little question marks you find. So the fox dens are one of them. The hot springs are another. There's like haiku sections, which is very interesting. I think they use these just to show off how beautiful their game is. So you'll just find these very scenic spots. And you'll like kneel down at these haiku stations. And you'll be given like a scenery.
Do you literally write haiku?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You choose haiku, but you're basically writing your own. So it shows the scenery, and then you have three options, and you kind of look around, and like it says like some words, and you get to pick which word you want to use for like the first stanza of your haiku or whatever. And then after you pick one, it goes to a different scene, and then you have another three choices, and then you pick one, and then you end it basically. And so there's a bunch of different combinations of haikus that you can create by what you're given. And then afterwards, Jin like recites it, and then you get a special headband, and it like has like in the item description in your inventory, it has the haiku that you wrote. So it's just a very cool little thing of like you get.
Can you stack the headbands? Can you just like
just wear like 50 headbands?
Oh, I mean, is it like Team Fortress 2 style where you can just stack them?
No, everyone is they're basically cosmetic items. So
okay.
You don't really get anything out of it other than the cosmetic aspect, which is just kind of cool. And then they have like these bamboo poles, or like bamboo strikes is what they call them. And it's basically like how many bamboo shoots can you chop with your sword. And so the way that they do these is it starts with 3, then 5, then 7. And you basically just have to press the buttons that it shows as fast as you can. And it just gets harder once you get to 7.
That sounds a lot like the Fable 2 jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Like oh, that's a fine point.
Exactly.
A mighty nice point. Like
so the first 3 shoots, it might be like hit XX square, and you have to hit it really fast. And so your goal is Jin throws up his sword and he slices through it, and you have to hit them all before his sword goes through all the bamboo shoots. And so if you don't tap them all in time, then he only gets part way through. And so
cool.
So when you get all the way through, then you earn like something that helps you with combat. Basically, it's
cool. Okay.
It's kind of like an endurance kind of thing. You basically use this energy kind of stuff. God, I'm like blanking on what it's called right now. Resolve. I think it's called resolve. And the more resolve you have, you basically use it to heal yourself. So the more of it you have is really helpful. You also use it for...
It refills your Estus flask?
Exactly. It's basically like Estus. And you also use it for special abilities too later in the game. Okay. So, and then like the last thing I would say is maybe the shrines. They're basically very Nathan Drakey, where you're basically
what, you demolish them? You blow them up?
No, you actually. The funny thing is they're already demolished. The pathway to the shrine is destroyed, and so you have to do a bunch of like climbing and swinging and all that kind of stuff. They're kind of platforming kind of stuff. to where you have to kind of figure out how you're going to get up to it. And it's pretty easy. You basically just follow the path, but you kind of, some of it's a little tricky of finding out where you need to climb, where you need to swing from, and stuff like that. So, and then when you get to it, you get a special charm that you can use to help you. And then there's duels. I'd say the last thing is duels. You'll find these random people that want to duel you. I don't quite understand the significance of it yet. Like I remember I was riding around on my horse and I saw this big ring. I'm like, oh, that looks like a dueling ring. And there's just like someone standing there, like waiting to duel someone. So I'm like, I guess I'll go duel them. And it's very dramatic. Like it sets up with like a good 45-second like cinematic of you like hovering your hand over the blade and like them doing it from like different angles and stuff like that. And then you have like a classic like duel arena boss fight. It's just very cool. I mean, I'm just surprised how many different things there are to do because I hate collectibles in games for the most part, but these are interesting enough to where I want to do them. And I think they were very clever on how they did it because you know, all kind of open world games have this kind of stuff where it's like, find the thing and you upgrade this. But at least this one did, everything that they did has something to do with like Japanese culture or samurai culture. So I thought that was, very cool.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds cool.
So yeah, man, I've long-winded this, but it's been a very, very, very fun game. And I'm about halfway through it right now. It's a huge game. I was very, very surprised at how big this game was. It's the whole island of Tsushima, and it's split up into like 3 sections. And you start in Izuhara, then you go to Toyotama, and then Kamiagata is the third one. And so you basically start from the bottom and work your way up, because the Mongol leader is like slowly taking over places, and you're basically catching up to him. And then in each side of those areas is separated into different prefectures, and they all have their side quests. So there's a lot to do. But this game is so fun and beautiful that it's one of those where I'm considering 100%ing this game, even though I'm trying to get through my backlog. I'm just like, I feel like I owe it to this game to discover everything because they put so much time into it. And that's my rap on Ghost of Tsushima. Like,
I mean, that's a pretty good rap.
My throat's going hoarse. Ugh.
That is a pretty good rap, dude. I like the sound of it. It sounds like it sounds a lot more than I thought it was.
That's exactly what I was gonna think. That's exactly what I was thinking when I first started playing. Was like everything I saw about this game looked so much more basic than what this game is, and I've just been blown away every step of the way. And I highly recommend it to anyone that wants to play it, including you.
Okay, well, that's a good recommendation and one that I will hopefully take someday.
Oh, geez, man, where do we go from that? Still got a few things to talk about, I think.
Let's see. I can talk about another game I've been playing. I'll be a little shorter with this one because I haven't actually really got that far in it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Oh my God, you're playing that?
So this is some of you who know about the release dates of these games might think there's a little bit of a theme going on. This is another 2001 game. Pure coincidence, I assure you. I seriously assure you of that. I was given this game as a gift for my birthday. I had played it as a kid. I never owned it. I was not allowed to own this game. And I remember liking it. I mean, I was a child. Like, the humor in this game appealed to me. And as I never played it since. I didn't play the remake on the Xbox original. So I've always wanted to get Conker's Bad Fur Day like I had first played it on the N64. And my housemate, Eric, gave me a copy, and I've been playing it.
Nice.
I've been enjoying it, more or less. It's a very dated game. I will say comparison to, because it's basically an action platformer just like Portal Runner is, with a little less action and more platforming. Comparatively, the platforming is a lot weaker. I think Portal Runner has much better platforming, which is why I gave Portal Runner a lot of prop, because Conker's Bad Fur Day didn't really get a bad review on it, but the platforming did not age well, the cameras did not age well, and the humor kind of didn't really age well either. It's still funny, it's amusing, and I had honestly forgot that this game was British.
Is it really?
Like
all the voices in it are British?
I had completely forgot that this game was British. Like, I when I first started up and I was playing it and I just heard it, I was like, oh my god, Conker has a. Oh my god, I forgot. Like, that's what the voices in this game are like, because that just faded away. Like, I just remembered what the game looked like, and I remembered some of the key humor in the game. But the game is very, very British humor. It's potty humor, but it's British humor in that sense. Like, it's very distinctly British, where it's dry. A lot of the interactions with NPCs in the game are very dry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. Like, it still is funny. It's very dated, again, I'll say, but it's funny. There's the quintessential boss that everyone thinks of when they think of Conker, which is the literal shit boss, the boss who is made of literal shit. I remembered that was kind of the furthest I got when I first played the game as a kid, and so I remembered that boss, and I fought the boss. He was a lot easier than I remembered, and he wasn't really as funny. I remember him being a lot funnier when I was a kid. He sings in full opera style, Pavarotti, like full on. Like, he rises from the liquid shit and he just belts out his dialogue at you in song. And the entire fight is fought in song, and he sings about shit, because he is shit, literally. And he sings about sweet corn because he has sweet corn teeth, and sweet corn doesn't digest, and blah 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 blah. He was a lot easier than I remembered. I still enjoyed fighting him, but he was a lot easier than I remembered. The game is it's fun. I'm enjoying playing it. I actually haven't been able to play it recently because my television fell over and broke.
Oh no.
And I was playing it on a flat screen. I actually have an old cathode ray television, but it's in storage, so I don't have it right now. But I would love to play it on that, because obviously
that's the best way to play
CRT
it.
TVs and vintage games go together very well. I'll get that someday. It's a nice Sony ViewMaster. It's very nice television. It's a big screen.
That's the one you had
someday I'll play it on that.
in your room, right?
Yeah, that was one I had in my old place. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, that was a nice one. That's a big one.
That was nice. I got that back when I used to work at the thrift store. It came in one day and everyone was like, "Oh, this is junk. Let's throw it out. Like, who wants these?" This was before retro games took off again. And
Jeez.
I was like, "Oh no!" It's like, "Who wants this?" I do. And yeah, I bought it for like $10. So anyway, Conker's it's fun. I'm enjoying it. The last place I was in was, where was the last place I was in? I was in the. I think I was getting to the castle. Speaking of the castle, so the plot of Conker's Bad Fur Day, because a lot of people have no idea what the hell the plot of the game is. There isn't really a plot, and that's kind of a joke in the game. You start off the game. He's in a pub, and he's basically getting smashed with his mates. He gets he calls his girlfriend, who's basically sexy Lola Bunny from Space Jam, and he calls her, and she's like, "Oh, I'm the girlfriend." I honestly forget what she sounded like, and he gives her some bullshit thing like, "Oh, I'm doing something I need to do," and then he's like, "I'll be there soon though," and she's like, "Okay," and then she goes back to doing her, like, sweating to the oldies with Gene Simmons, and then Conker leaves the pub and he's like, "I need to get home and I'm really drunk," and that's when you start the game. So you're getting Conker home from the pub, and you.
Very
God
British.
only knows how the hell he got to the pub in the first place, because there is no straight way to get back home.
So is that the plot of the game, is getting home and then you just get lost in this tale?
The game has a two-sided plot, and Conker is unaware of the villain. So there is a villain in the game. He is like a Disney-style anthropomorphic villain. Like, he's a big black jaguar, like king and everything. Like, he looks like, I forget the movie, but there's a Disney movie where it has like a king that's like a lion, but imagine as a black jaguar. And he's sitting on his throne. And he has like the very like, "Get me the red squirrel," like voice. And basically he wants Conker. He doesn't know who Conker is, but he wants a red squirrel, which Conker is a red squirrel, and because he has a table sitting next to his throne, and he sets his milk on the table, and the table is missing a leg. So whenever he sets his milk on the table, the milk falls off the table because the table falls over. And the perfectly sized entity to replace the table leg, instead of a piece of wood, why grab a piece of wood and make a table leg out of wood? I mean, who does that? Is a red squirrel.
Oh my god, that's
So
the
he
most ridiculous.
literally wants Conker to make him into the leg of his table.
Oh my
That's
God.
what the villain. That's literally the villain's intent. That is all he wants, is to get Conker. He doesn't know who Conker is. He just tells his henchmen to get the red squirrel, but his henchmen have no idea what a red squirrel looks like. So you meet the henchmen, and they're like, "Oh," they basically tell you to like fuck off. They're like "Screw off, yeah, get away from us." And then as you walk away, like it goes back to the henchmen. They're like, "What does a red squirrel look like? Like, was that a red squirrel?" And it was like, "Oh no." And the game it's funny. It's very goofy, very silly, very very funny, and the fact that it has no plot works for it.
That is such a genius game design. Like, I bet the writers for this game were having so much fun with this.
It's very much like a Fable game, except Fable mixed like the story. Like Fable had good story writing, more or less, and they mixed like the emotion of the story in with the humor. This game just went all out. Like they were just like balls to the wall. Like we're just gonna like this game has no point. It's here for pure entertainment, and there's no emotion in this game whatsoever. And whenever you die in this game, like whenever you run out of lives and you're fucking dead, you get a specific death scene that is tailored to how you died, basically. So if you drowned, it cuts to a scene of the henchman carrying like a wet, soggy bag into the throne room, and they're like, "We found the red squirrel." If you get like chopped up or like smashed or ground up or something, it cuts to a scene of the henchman carrying like a wet, soggy, bloody bag, like a bag full of gore, to the throne room, and they're like, "We found the red squirrel," and then the king's like, "Get out the duct tape," and
so no matter how he dies, it's always the henchman delivering. So like
the henchmen get you basically if you die. Like even if you, it cuts to a scene that like basically, depending on how you died, like you just get taken there. And I think if you get flattened, they take you like as like a flattened thing, and they take you there. Like we found the squirrel, and then you have to get like inflated again.
Classic.
It's a very goofy game. It's very pointless, and honestly, I'll say it again, it has not aged well, both mechanically and writing wise in more ways, but I'm having a really fun time playing it again. I really am.
I just remember that being one of those games when you were younger, like what was the other one? There was like the stuffed animals.
That was Fur Fighters.
Fur Fighters. Like Conkers.
Fur Fighters was the one I actually owned. Fur Fighters was like the tame Conker.
Yeah, I just remember seeing those on the shelves and being like, "Ooh, there's the naughty games I'm not supposed to play. Like they have bad words in them."
Yeah, Fur Fighters was like the tame version of it because it was very violent, but they got away with it by having the blood be like stuffing from a stuffed animal, and while Conker, like you literally get sliced in half and there's blood and stuff everywhere.
That's pretty crazy because it's on the N64, right?
Yeah, it was literally I think one of the last games released on the N64.
Jeez.
And it's the only mature game I think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it was made by Rare. Like Rare developed the game, and I mean Rare is. I really think it's one of the only mature games they made, but I could be wrong about that.
I was gonna say, based on what I know about Rare, they don't.
Because Rare did Banjo-Kazooie as well.
Yeah, didn't they also do Perfect Dark though? Was that mature?
Oh, they did. You're right. Okay, I'm wrong. Never mind. Perfect Dark, yeah. So Rare. When I think of Rare, I think of Banjo-Kazooie for Perfect Dark. I don't know why.
I mean, yeah, I think I like the most kid-friendly games ever.
So Banjo-Kazooie, like, literally is Conker, but without the dirty humor. Like, because
Gotcha.
they literally have the exact same play style. Like, those games play exactly the same.
Just worse, though. Like, Conker just feels worse. Even compared to Banjo.
I haven't played Banjo-Kazooie in a long time, so I can't say, but I remember Banjo-Kazooie being a really difficult game because the mechanics were not very good. Nothing against the games. Banjo-Kazooie is a classic, and so is Conker. Frankly, I'm enjoying playing it. It's just, as far as platformers go, Portal Runner is a better platformer.
Well,
and they literally came out in the same year.
Speaking of like the older games, if I remember correctly, isn't there there's an old game that's getting revived, I think, right? And it's one that we played or one that you played.
It's one that I played actually. Maybe you played it too. I'm not sure. I played it with my friend Kevin. It's Time Splitters.
Time Splitters, that's right. Yes.
It's coming back. Like it's actually coming back, which was something I never thought would happen, because Time Splitters is kind of a thing of the past that I haven't really thought about. And then suddenly I look one day and on the headline is Time Splitters is getting a new game. Like, it's Deep Silver is the publisher, is bringing it back. It's getting developed by who is it? Free Radical Design, and they're making a brand new Time Splitters game, which is pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, I think what I read is that I think Deep Silver is bringing back like some or most of the original developers of the Time Splitter games, which is so I think they're revitalizing Free Radical Design.
It's Time Splitters was great. I don't really remember much about the first game, but the second game I played a lot with my friend Kevin, a lot, and it's fun. It's a lot like Perfect Dark Zero. Like, if you played not Perfect Dark Zero, sorry, Perfect Dark. It's a lot like Perfect Dark.
Yeah, we don't talk about Zero.
I
mean, we played plenty of that too.
That could be another rant. I actually don't hate Zero, but I'll rant about that one later.
Okay.
It's a lot like Perfect Dark. You have these kind of weird levels, these very wacky levels, and except it's Time Splitters, so you're basically jumping around in time to do these things that matter in the moment, basically, like save someone or do something. And in the second game, I remember playing with Kevin. There's a few weird stories about. There was one in particular, actually. I'll just say that it's the one that like has to do with the quip at the beginning of the episode. We were playing Time Splitters 2, and there's the Chicago level, which I think is set in like 1932 or 1930 something. It's like noir themed. It's set like a noir movie. So when you first start the level, it has a cutscene where it like pans around like the kind of dark, dismal city of Chicago circa 1930s, and you have a voiceover that's very noir, like, and it starts off by saying, "Chicago, I've had a belly full of it." And then there's like silence, 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 and then he said, "Chicago, I've had a belly full of it." And so Kevin and I are like watching this like cutscene, and then silence, silence, silence. "Chicago, I've had a belly full of it." And we just sat there, and it wasn't until he said it like the fourth time that we were like, this isn't supposed to be happening. Like, he's not supposed to repeat this 4 times.
Oh my god.
It was a glitch in the game. Like, he was not supposed to be repeating that line over and over. And that's the only line that he would say throughout the entire intro video to that level, where he just repeated shit. But like the separation of silence between him saying like "I've had a belly full of it" and then starting it over, just it sounded like it was meant to be. Like, it didn't sound like a glitch. It sounded like
it was so funny that you guys waited that long before wondering if it was a glitch or not.
Well, because it was just, it's a kind of a, it's a goofy game. It's a little goofy. So we just kind of thought like, this is weird. Why is he saying it again? And then, wait, he's not supposed to be saying that. Like, that's not the only line he's supposed to be saying in this video, is it? And yeah, that became like a thing we said to each other after that. Like, "Chicago, I've had a belly full of it." Like, because it's just like such a goofy line, and then on top of it being repeated over and over again as the only line in the entire intro to the level.
Oh god, that is so funny.
Yeah.
So are you excited for this? Do you think it's gonna be good?
I'm pretty damn excited. I don't really know what I'm gonna get, because it's been a long. 2005 was a long time ago, and as far as I know, that was the last Time Splitters game. I don't think there's been a full game release since then, but I just haven't played a Time Splitters game since then. So 2005 was a long time ago. I played the 2005 game, you know, years and years and years ago, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But besides that, like, I don't know what I'm gonna get with a brand new spanking game. Is it gonna be good? Is it gonna be anything like the originals? Is it gonna be better? If they're getting all the original designers back, like,
I think it could be a pretty cool game, honestly. Like, I feel like it'll be different than what we're used to getting right now. So if they can pull this off, I think it could be pretty successful. And they could
really
like
hope it's something
restart
different
this
than
whole
what we get now,
franchise.
because I'm getting a little tired of the question mark map games and all those kind of things. Like,
yeah, I agree.
And a little, so Free Radical Design, I'm stoked about them developing. The Deep Silver publisher thing is what kind of concerns me, and it's probably a false concern, but they published Saints Row 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
Personal opinion here, you can shoot me in the head for it. I did not like Saints Row 3. I did not like Saints Row 4. I found them to be the worst in the entire series of Saints Rows. I know I'm the extreme minority when I say that. I hated, especially Saints Row 4, and then you have Gat Out of Hell, whatever the hell that was.
They published that one too, I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure they did.
I think 3 was pretty fondly. I think there's some scenes from 3 that a lot of people liked.
3.
I think the main thing from 3, or maybe it was the second one, but there's a moment where I think you skydive out of like a plane or a helicopter, and like this Kanye song starts playing.
That's probably 3.
It was one of those like cool game moments where there was like bringing in pop culture at the time.
Yeah, the only problem is I don't like Kanye West, so that was lost.
I guess you didn't really care. Yeah, either way.
I liked Saints Row 2 more because
that was my favorite game of the series.
I have a lot of good memories of Saints Row 2. I tried to enjoy Saints Row 3, and it just had nothing that the second game had that made me like it.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Again, personal opinion. They did also Deep Silver did also publish Kingdom Come Deliverance, which good game. I mentioned it earlier in the episode. I mentioned it because I was kind of, ragging on the combat in the game, which is a little block, attack, wait for the enemy to open up, attack.
Mm-hmm.
When the game was I was actually a Kickstarter to Kingdom Come Deliverance. I kickstarted the game. I have like a collector's edition copy with a poster and everything. And it's I have nothing against the game, but I find the game is a little disappointing. I didn't like it as much as I thought I would.
Mm-hmm.
I did beta testing for the game when they were making it, and I have another story actually that goes along with that. I'm sorry to keep rattling on about stories like an old man, but this was with Kevin as well. We were playing the game. We were playing the beta. They had just opened up more of the world, so there were some more NPCs now. You could walk around a little more and explore.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an NPC who was a blacksmith, and I remember walking up to him, and he was sitting down in his little anvil, doing his blacksmithing stuff. It didn't look very good because the animations were kind of early on. And I walked up to him and I hit him with a sword, and he didn't react. I hit him with a sword, he just went, and he didn't react. So I hit him again. He was like, he just sat there and stared at me with this kind of why look on his face. He was kind of hurt, maybe even mildly perturbed. And then I hit him again. He's just he just kind of crumples to the ground slowly and dies. And he didn't even try to get away. I was just Kevin and I were just on the floor laughing because it was the most absurd reaction an NPC has ever done to being murdered, which is to look insulted by the action of it and just make these groaning sounds of pure displeasure.
I just love that he didn't even try to react.
He didn't even try to run.
The
other NPCs around us, they hoofed it. They ran their asses were on fire. This guy was he just kind of crumpled to the ground like I was his father and I just slapped him in the face. Except I was hitting him with a sword and he was just it was the most he was like a deflating balloon. It was really damn funny. That was just really, really goddamn funny.
Oh god, you always have the funniest stories with this kind of stuff.
that was a good one. I mean, that was just another Kevin story, but yeah. Anyways, speaking of Kevin, I was actually on his podcast. Kevin also hosts a podcast, and I think you listened to it too, Garrett, didn't you?
I did, yeah. We probably should have mentioned this earlier in the episode.
Yeah,
but
yeah, we should.
Yeah, you guessed it on their Jump Crouch podcast, right?
Yeah, their podcast is called Jump Crouch. It's actually they've been doing it for years now. It's Kevin, his brother Aaron, and they have a new host. I'm not sure. I don't remember who their original host was, but they had a third host, and their current one is Oren. He's a great guy. I had a great time talking to him on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
They do a video game podcast as well, so they talk about current games, what they've been playing, and those guys are always playing something really cool, and they always have really cool things to say about it. So it was a really fun time being able to go on there with them and talk with them about games.
Yeah, they're their podcast is actually what inspired me to want to start Out of Mana when I first.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah, when I first did this, I was listening. I was listening to a lot of video game podcasts, like ones from IGN and stuff like that. I tried a few other ones from people like GameSpot and Giant Bomb or whoever else does them. But then I remember Kevin saying that he did one with his brother, and so I started listening to it. I'm like, hey, like I could do this too. And so that's when I first started the podcast. I was trying to do it solo, and I'm like, this isn't working out. Like this isn't fun. And that's when like I brought you onto it because should have done that from the beginning. Honestly, I was just like, I don't know if I want to like commit other people into it or not, but it ended up being a really good decision. I'm glad we did. And yeah, they do a great job. They're very knowledgeable. So yeah, they're a little older than us. So we've got 20 years under our belt at least, because I'm 27 and I've been playing games since I was a kid. So
you and I are both at that point now, but they are way ahead of us and they are extremely knowledgeable. Aaron, Kevin, and Oren are extremely knowledgeable, and their podcast is really awesome. They have a lot of episodes. I believe Kevin went to E3 at one point. I think 3 or 4 years ago now, but he like interviewed at E3, and that was really cool to like watch that. That was like super, super damn cool.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they have a great podcast. I was really honored to be on it and to talk on it. And I'm sure most people, if you haven't listened to it yet, like go and listen to it. It's a really cool podcast.
Yeah, if you like what we do, definitely go listen to them because
yeah.
I mean, like I don't want to downplay us, but they really get into the games that they're playing, and they're very, very knowledgeable, and they're very passionate about the games that they like. And so when they like something, they pretty much know everything about it. And it's very cool to hear them talk about these games because it's stuff that most people normally wouldn't know, which is why I enjoyed listening to it. In the first place. So yeah, definitely go check them out. I'm pretty sure you can find them on all podcast platforms like iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
I think they're on everything. And I know their Twitter, so I'll just drop that one. Their Twitter is twitter.com/thejumpcrouch. Like that's their Twitter, and I'd recommend checking them out too if you enjoy us. But like that's mostly just because I guested on their show, and I feel very important for that. But besides
it was a good episode. I had a lot of fun listening to that.
I had a lot of fun being on it. I really enjoyed it. Anyway, we'll move on. And any other games you want to touch on, Garrett?
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to dive too deep in these because we have been long-winded. But since
this is a comeback episode,
that is true. We may as well make it long. The other games I've been playing, the games I've beaten actually. Are Spider-Man, Miles Morales, which you got me for, what was it, Christmas? Or birthday?
Mm-hmm.
Christmas, yeah. So which is really cool because it also came with the remastered version.
It was your birthday, actually. Sorry to take that back.
I think so. No, it wasn't birthday. It was Christmas because we were at your sister's house.
Oh, I got you the hat for your birthday.
Yes, okay, that's right. Go on. So it came with the remastered version of the 2018 Spider-Man. So
you played both of those.
Yeah, last time we recorded, I'd already played the Spider-Man. So this time I finally got to the Miles Morales version, which it's very similar to the original, but I enjoyed the combat way more in Miles Morales, and it's because he was bit by a different kind of spider, and so he has a different kind of ability.
He was bit by a different kind of spider.
Yeah, there are many.
I mean, how many of these mutant spiders are out there?
Well,
and they have different species of these mutant spiders.
I'm not going to spoil anything, but you'll realize that they're out there. But so his gave him this this kind of bio superpower where he can basically harnesses electricity basically, and
so he's static shock.
Pretty much, like he can basically consume electricity and he can like create it himself. I don't know the inner workings of it, but it's just very fun to use because you basically are Spider-Man, except you have this special like super punch ability where you just like use electricity and it just blows them away. It's
Spider-Man with a twist.
It's just so much fun, and they call it Venom in that game.
Wait, isn't Venom?
Well, Venom's
something
like
bad.
Well, yeah, but like they call this Venom. They just think it sounds cool. You know, they're young kids.
That's a little confusing.
Because he's a teenager. I think he's like 16, 17 years old. So like he's still in school and he's trying to be the superhero.
Isn't he supposed to be older in Miles Morales? I thought he was 16 or 17 in the original Spider-Man game.
No, I'm not sure because I mean he Miles Morales has his own like Spider Man kind of arc. You know how there's kind of the multiverse of
Yeah,
Spider-Mans,
yeah.
and that movie kind of opened that up. But there's definitely comics of all this, and he's
I mean, to be fair, the most I know about this game is what I've seen from you, and that it has like a swagger meme or something.
oh yeah. So to dive into that, the whole like swagger of a black teen meme is basically he they
Yeah,
basically made him like
that was it. That was it.
they basically made him cooler, and so like the way that he walks, he dresses, he swings, and he fights is just you can definitely tell that there's differences. Like there's just he's a lot
Photo
more
mode.
yeah, he's very flashy with it because he's younger, you know? Like he's a high schooler and he got these cool powers, and so he's just when he's swinging through the air, he does like a lot more it's a lot more like careless, I would say, is because he hasn't learned quite yet. I saw this really interesting video comparing of how Spider-Man and then Miles Morales goes through like a like a crane with a pipe hanging from it. You know, you're like swinging around, you can like shoot yourself through the pipe, and apparently Miles Morales goes like head first through it, whereas the original Spider-Man goes feet first. And so I was like reading the comments, and it's like, you know, the original probably goes feet first because he learned his lesson by like hitting his head by like being careless too much. And so you kind of feel this where there's a maturity to the original Spider-Man because he's in his like mid 20s, I think.
No,
And
he's just
then
an old man. Yeah.
yeah, and so the teenager one is a lot more like having fun with it. So
He hasn't experienced loss yet. He
yeah,
hasn't lost a limb yet.
he hasn't like suffered as much yet. So
It's the same way that spiders, when they lose one of their legs, they adapt to it. Sadly.
but it's it's very cool. Like I love the way that it feels when he's fighting and swinging. It just feels like fresh. So other than that, the story, I wasn't a fan of the story. I
Really?
I kind of went through it. I played the game, and gameplay wise, the gameplay was great. The fighting was great. I'd say the scenes were even very fun to play in. It's just like the plot, I didn't care for.
But what about the swagger and the Adidas?
That is a fun.
Are you telling me that wasn't enough?
It wasn't enough.
You ungrateful shit?
I had more fun playing this game than the original. It is shorter too. I'd say it's about
Oh.
it's half as long than
Really?
than the original. Yeah.
Damn.
But there is still a lot to do. You know, there's still different kind of collectibles and mini games to do. So it's not like there's not a lot of content. And by short, I say like it probably took me like 8 9 hours to beat this game. I think, if I remember correctly, you could probably do it faster if you wanted to. But yeah, just the story is just you just don't care. Like by the end of it, you know, it I think it's supposed to be emotional, and you just don't care. Whereas in the first one, I cared. Like by the end of that game, I was like, wow, I want to give like standing ovation by how impressed I was by it. Miles Morales does have a lot of dramatic scenes, which are fun to play in, but overall, the writing wasn't my favorite. But
It sounds like the original just had better character development, which is why you cared about the characters more than as opposed to Miles Morales.
exactly, that's exactly it. There was better character development, and since it was a longer game, you had more time to learn these characters. Whereas Miles Morales is basically like Spider-Man's on vacation, and so you have to defend New York, and so all this
Ouch.
shit happens in like the 2 weeks that he's gone, and
Ouch.
it's just interesting.
You're basically dog sitting.
Yeah, pretty much. And but you grow and you learn, and I won't spoil any of this stuff, but I would highly recommend it. It's definitely worth the money and the time.
Okay.
Other than that, just to briefly go through it, I finished off Kingdom Hearts Melody and Memories, which is the rhythm game Kingdom Hearts.
Sweet.
So I finished that. For some reason, I'm working on the Platinum Trophy for that game, which is the stupidest thing I've ever done and the biggest waste of time. But I got like halfway through it, and I just feel committed to finishing it. So there's 150 songs in that game. So there's like 150 different tracks. But there's 3 different difficulties. So there's beginner, standard, and proud, just like the original Kingdom Hearts difficulties. But they all have their own courses. So overall, there's 450 courses to do if you play
Jesus.
all 150 songs 3 times. And so
3 times. Like, you want to do it to yourself 3 times.
so I beat the game on the hardest difficulty, right? And so everything I'm doing is just easier now. And so I'm like, it's to the point
Is that
where
even
like
fun?
I'm like falling asleep while doing it because it's not even difficult. Like the standard difficulty isn't even like simulating enough to like make me want to pay attention.
Why are you? What?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm like, I love rhythm games and I love Kingdom Hearts, and I'm like, by the time I had beaten the game by playing all the songs like the story mode on Proud, I unlocked a lot of the trophies, and so I was already so far there. And so now I'm like, well, I might as well do this. I don't know what I'm doing myself. Either way, basically, I would say I'm like 300 out of 450. So, like I've done all the Proud, I did all the beginner. Oh yeah, so I'm more than 300. So I'd say I'm like 350 out of 450. So I maybe have 100 more courses to do. They're each like 2-3 minutes long. So I got like a few hours left. And there's just a few other things, little trophies like defeat 100k enemies. So it's basically I'm at like 60,000. So I have like 400 or 40k more to do, but I should be pretty close by the time
only 40k. You're so close.
by the time I'm done with that, I should be pretty close. And then anything left, I basically have to play the hardest song in the game, grinded it quite a few times because it has a lot of enemies, and then I should be done. So I don't know why I'm doing that to myself. I think it's just a pride thing where I'm like, I've never 100%ed a Kingdom Hearts game before, and this is the one that I actually can, because the other ones are so tedious.
You could have 100%ed the original Kingdom Hearts game, which is the best one.
I mean, I could have, but it was also
All you had to do was beat those bosses.
And some collections too. There's like some crafting stuff.
It's the bosses that are the problem.
It is. Those bosses are so insanely hard.
Like the Big Ben boss, dude.
Yeah, I tried that one. That was terrifying. I got like one shot, and then of course like Sephiroth.
Sephiroth. I'm glad you finally finished the game, but I feel bad for you that you're trying to do.
I don't know what I'm doing to myself. I've been like waking up before work, and I've been playing that game for like an hour just to get it out of the way. After that, I've got The Last of Us Part 2 to beat.
Ooh.
Which is, I'm excited because it won all those awards. It's got to be a good game. I love the first game.
It's the Emmy bait. That game just had an update for it, didn't it, recently?
Yes, like a couple days ago, they just came out with a 60 frame rate patch.
That was it. It finally got its update, yeah.
For PS5, which I was so glad because I started the game on the PS5 and I'm like, I know this game is going for a cinematic 30 FPS, like it's supposed to feel a certain way, but it was to the point where like I was playing so many high frame rate games, it felt so sluggish, like I felt like my controls were lagging. And this 60 FPS should hopefully take that away. So I'm very excited for that. And then I finished Hollow Knight. I could go deep into that. Maybe we should do an episode on Hollow Knight at some point because that was such a good game.
We should definitely do a good one on that because, yeah, that game deserves it.
I could go on about that one. I'm super excited for the sequel, hopefully coming out soon. Maybe we'll get a trailer for that during E3. That would be nice because that's coming up.
Just made me excited.
I know. I'm just curious where they're gonna go with that.
We should talk about that game because we'll talk about it for a long time. That game is great, and I'm excited to hear more about it. So I'm hoping we get something.
And then the last game I want to talk about is Resident Evil 7. Not the new one. Resident Evil 8 is the new one, but Resident Evil 7 is like the prequel to it.
I'll talk about Resident Evil 8. Don't you worry. Go ahead.
Okay. So I started it. I played like the first 15 minutes. It was getting pretty spooky.
And then you kept playing.
No, I stopped.
And then you kept playing.
I went down into the scary cellar and it got really dark. And I'm like, you know what? This isn't the time to play this right now. And so I turned it off.
You keep playing. Like, you kept playing, right?
I will get through it. I must because I have to figure out what happens.
Well, if you want, then I'll play it with you. I love horror games, please.
I know you love the Resident Evil series. They are a lot easier to play with like someone around, and like I was playing it with Sydney, and she was just like, and she's like, oh, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to. And she was getting motion sick too because the camera is first person.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, that's like a pretty motion sickness inducing. It's got a lot of like camera bobbing and like motion blur. I'm like, I don't even know if I can get through this game.
It's an intense game. Just wait till you get to some of the later stuff. Like I haven't finished it either, but like I played a little further than you, but like it gets intense and then some as you go further.
Oh, it's too scary.
No, it's good scary. Speaking of Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 8, otherwise known as.
You got it, right?
I own it, and I played 30 minutes of it. Then I guessed it on Kevin's podcast, Jump Crouch, and then after talking about it on there, I was like, oh man, I'm like super stoked now. I'm gonna restart the game and play it again, and like do a different. I think I did a different difficulty. I think I had a hard difficulty, and I went back to standard because I wanted to enjoy the game. I didn't want to like do anything too stressful. I wanted to enjoy the game, my first time, and now I can't get past the first 15 minutes. I have put that goddamn baby to bed probably 30 or 40 times now. That stupid baby that is just like a baby, and I have had to carry it upstairs. I put it in its crib. It like wiggles in the crib like a little worm, and then I walk away and the game crashes.
Oh no.
And so then I troubleshooted. I did this, I did that. I went upstairs, put the baby back to sleep, crashed. I troubleshoot again. I'm holding the baby. The wife is like, I'm reading scary stories, baby. And she goes in the kitchen to like complain or something. And then I turn around and crash. I didn't even get upstairs this time. The baby just died with me on the stairs, I guess. And yeah, after about 30 times of doing that, I have not played any further on the game because I cannot get it to not crash on that intro.
And so you're playing on PC, right?
I'm playing on PC, obviously, which is the master race, quote unquote. Apparently, because crashing is just so fun. I rather prefer it to actually playing the game.
Number one reason why I don't PC game is
how
you can have a monster computer and then it's still just gonna crash on you.
You filthy man thing! How dare you? Like I'll have you know that I have the ability to install all the mods I want on my unworkable game. So
do you think it's a PC error?
I have played roughly 15 minutes of Resident Evil, like, and that's might even be being kind so far because the game is still crashing. It's still crashing. I'm gonna try more troubleshooting, I guess, but as of now, I can't play it.
Well, hopefully that gets patched out, or
if it's a software issue, I hope they release a patch because I'm not the only one. I've done research. There's a lot of people experiencing crashes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and similar to mine. Yeah.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, it's not like you get to play the game. It's nice to have that peace of mind that you're not the only one suffering, but of course, no one has a fix. I've been through that road where you go through all the random forums that you never thought you would ever find, and people have all these answers, and it's like,
unfortunately, those random forums don't exist anymore because, you know,
true.
Message boards basically don't exist anymore. Reddit is like the closest thing we have to the message boards of yore.
True.
So yeah, I basically went on the Steam forums and I went on Reddit, and I got a lot of people with similar problems to me, but there are no fixes so far.
Man, well, that sucks.
And so this isn't knocking Resident Evil Village. I'm sure it's a great game. It sounds really cool. I really want to play it. I just can't play it yet, so I'm on hold.
Yeah, I knew Oren was talking it up on that Jump Crouch episode I was listening to.
Yeah.
He's beaten it like 5 or 6 times. I literally
tried to play it immediately after I got off the show, and it crashed, and yeah, my dreams.
Yeah, that would ruin my mood pretty bad.
Yeah, it did.
Well, you got anything else to talk about? I think
that about covers it. Let me think of something random. Okay, I've got a really random like bit of news that I heard through Eric.
Oh, okay.
Which is Pokemon cards. Like who collects Pokemon cards anymore, right?
Oh.
But guess what? Pokemon cards are through the roof right now, apparently. Apparently they are sold out of every store because guess what's happening to Pokemon cards now? The same thing that's happened to pretty much every graphics card that's come out in the past year.
Oh no.
All the consoles, they're being bought up and they're being scalped and they're being sold online.
Oh no. It's funny you mention that because my grandpa.
This is why we can't have nice things.
My grandpa messaged me and he's like, Seth, who's like my cousin, he's like, Seth's wondering if you have any Pokemon cards. I'm like, no, I've never had any Pokemon cards, but now I understand why he was asking.
Yeah, this little sneaky, slimy Seth is like wanting to like scalp your cars and make money.
He's trying to make money. If you're listening, Seth, I love you, but I do think that's really funny.
I'm sorry, Seth. I've never met you. I'm sure you're cool. I'm just saying that for humor.
But the thing about Seth is he's actually he loves Pokemon, so he's probably looking to actually just collect the cards. I think he just wants the cards.
Hey, as someone who collected the cards back when like it literally was in the first generation, I somewhere, God only knows where, but somewhere I have my little blue plastic vinyl covered Pokemon binder with Pikachu on the cover, and in there are at least 2 Charizards and many other fucking cards that I bought from the little store down the street with my quarters as a child. I have not seen that binders in probably 6 or 7 years. So who knows where it is?
All that money.
Who knows where it is? But Seth, guess what? Like somewhere out there, that is, and maybe you'll find it. Who knows?
So man, so they're being scalped, huh? That's too bad.
It's
I'm getting
the same
sick
thing
of
that's
this.
happening to everything nice. This is literally why the world is. Why we can't have nice things because bots and people.
It's getting ridiculous. Like between getting a console, between getting like concert tickets or shoes or whatever the hell you're going for.
Getting anything, yeah. Who wants the next pair of Nikes? Well, guess what? You can't.
Yeah, unless you're a bot.
You want to wear nice shoes, and guess what? You can't. Like, sorry, no, you can't. It's like, okay.
You just have to buy it for 250% of the actual cost.
Dude, there's a reason, like, yeah. We can't have these things because scalpers. And I would love to upgrade my graphics card, which is a 980. I'm not even in the thousands. My graphics card is a 980. I bought this graphics card new a decade ago.
A literal decade ago.
I would love to upgrade my graphics card, but guess what? I can't. Because all the 3000 series are sold out. Like, not even God has one. I can't have one. Unless Jesus, like, bestows me the card himself, like, I'm not getting one.
It's the sad truth, man. It is pathetic.
It is. I actually have like a little nest egg of tax return money that I would love to spend on a card, but I literally love my 980. It's still working great for me. It can actually play the new Resident Evil quite well, but I will never know because it's crashing. But of course, I would also love to upgrade it. I would love to put this card to rest, but I can't. It's still having to be my workhorse.
Well, here's hoping you find one, and everyone that's listening who is probably looking for a PS5 or a 3070 or 3080.
Or a 30 anything.
Or a 30
or a Pokemon card.
Street, or even a Pokemon
or a Pokemon card. I mean, whoever just wants like any Pokemon card at all, guess what? You can't. Next is gonna be Neopet cards that come back, and then I'm gonna regret getting rid of all my Neopet cards.
Oh God. Well, I think we've had quite the episode.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, it's very fun to be back in the quote-unquote studio. I'm looking forward to do more of these episodes again. It's nice to talk about games again. I'm not gonna lie.
It is nice to go on and on and on about games, and hopefully it is also nice for you listeners. If you enjoy listening to this, good, because we love to talk.
Yeah, it's still, the world's slowly getting back to normal, but it's still not quite there yet. So having things to listen to and occupy that idle time has been helpful for me. So hopefully,
speaking of back to normal, tomorrow is my second vaccination shot, so I'm stoked to.
Oh, sweet! Welcome.
To the
club.
You already had yours too, right, Garrett?
Yeah, I got mine a couple weeks ago, like 3 weeks ago.
I'm sorry, we won't bring politics into this. Like, I mean, I know some people consider that political. We won't bring it anymore. But yes, back to normal is great. Yeah,
in here in California, like the population is so high that it just feels very secure to have a vaccine. So
yeah, I'd rather not slide into an early grave like 3DO.
Yeah, that's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for listening to this episode of Out of Mana. And if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Pod Out of Mana. On YouTube, we're Out of Mana. And on Twitch, we're Out of Mana Plays, which we're hoping to be more active on soon. You can also email us at podoutofmana@gmail.com. So until next time, we'll see you guys later.